tax day in Concord and a lovely day for a tea party as 500 New Hampshire residents gather on the steps of the State House to say that they're taxed enough already. Across a dozen New Hampshire towns, taxpayers rallied against out-of-control spending at the State House and in Congress. Corey Lewandowski helped organize the Concord rally for Americans for Prosperity.
Taxed enough already, T, right? We're talking, the state has proposed a gas tax, 83% increase in gas tax, a room and meals tax of 10% increase, a capital gains tax, a potential inheritance tax, a tobacco tax, a proposed toll booth at exit 1 on Route 93. I thought the stimulus money that we were getting from the federal government was supposed to alleviate our ability to keep paying taxes. That was the whole purpose of this stimulus process. It's clearly not the case.
After the $787 billion stimulus bill passed within hours of being introduced in Congress, Glenn from Nashua has a simple request for his representatives. Read the bills.
Any bill that passes through Congress, I wish they would read the bills all the way through, and then they would have a better grip on representing us and saying no when it's needed to be, instead of some bills being added in that they never read, and all of a sudden, where the people are dealing with it.
Michael and Gladys made the trip to Concord all the way from Whitefield, even though there were tea parties closer to home in Berlin and Plymouth. They said they wanted their message to get through to lawmakers.
It's a very important matter to come here, and this is the only way we feel we can express ourselves. Even the politicians don't listen to us.
Our country's being stolen, not just by the Democrats, but the Republicans are in with them. It's like we need representation that represents the people. We're not going to stand for a fascist or socialist government. We believe in people doing what's right. We believe in people being responsible for their actions.
Adele from Charlestown says her frustration is reaching historic proportions.
Pretty tired of all of my money going out to the government without my permission. Things are getting out of control, and this is kind of why we came to this country in the first place and had that little old tea party back a couple hundred years ago. It's getting out of control, and the government's not listening. So hopefully enough voices get together and maybe they'll start.
As taxpayers partied on the State House lawn, state employees took some time off for their own rally on Main Street in Concord. State Employees Association President Gary Smith.
Well, we're out here to let the public know that public employees pay taxes too, and that the legislature's proposal to levy an income tax just on public employees and public retirees is unfair. We're responsible for about $6 billion worth of economic impact in this state. So the levying of an income tax just on public employees and retirees, not only is it unfair, but it's anti-stimulus.
The Taxpayer Tea Party reflected the legacy of tax-fighting Governor Mel Thompson. His son Tom Thompson told the crowd that future generations of his family are facing a far different legacy.
My father loved this state, and he served as governor from 1973 to 1979. But he loved not only the state, but the hardworking men and women in this state, and he fought for many battles to keep your taxes down. But he loved and cherished most of all his family of 6 children, 18 grandchildren, and 27 great-grandchildren. Both Jaden and Connor share something which many young people across this nation share today. Because of the actions in Washington, D.C., their future has just been mortgaged for the rest of their lives.
Local business owner and former state Senate candidate Andy Sanborn demonstrated just how much the state budget has grown in recent years.
I have a copy right here. This right here is a copy of the state of New Hampshire's 2006 and 2007 state budget, where they spent $9.2 billion of your dollars.
Did they read it?
And no, I don't think they read it. In 2.5 years that these tax and spenders have been in power in the state of New Hampshire, this today is the new proposed budget for the state of New Hampshire that's going to spend $11.5 billion of your dollars. So let's talk about this a little bit, shall we? So we'll start on this page. Does anyone here want to pay more in taxes every time you go out to eat or drink? No! Does anyone here want to pay more in taxes every time you pick up your phone? No! Does anyone here want to pay more in taxes every time you turn on a light? No!
Representative Neil Kirk says for every constituent who asks him to control spending, 50 people are asking for more money. He told the hundreds in the audience to turn those numbers around.
Representatives and senators, listen. But we've been listening to those people who have been speaking, and it hasn't been you. You need to speak to your senator, and you also need to speak to the governor. And it works. Democracy works. But it's up to you. Go home from this rally with your spirits lifted. But go home from this rally with your pen raised and the paper on which you're going to write that message ready and send it out. Keep the U.S. Postal Service in business if you have to, but get those messages out. That way, we'll lower taxes, we'll lower spending, and you can keep your hard-earned money.
Critics of the Tea Party movement say it's a partisan stunt designed to weaken support for President Obama's agenda. But Lewandowski says his group will work with anyone willing to show some fiscal discipline.
We've worked with President Obama when he was in the state Senate to support transparency in government legislation. Americans for Prosperity has. In addition to that, the people that are coming out today for the taxpayer tea parties are rank and file people who have never been involved politically. They're not Republicans, they're not Democrats. They literally may not even be registered to vote. So this is a whole new group of people that I think are just fed up with all the taxes which they're being built out of.
Adele has volunteered for several New Hampshire candidates, but says the Tea Party had a very different atmosphere than campaign season.
There's a lot of people here, and everyone's joined together. I've mostly been politically active on individual campaigns, and so there's always the different camps. This time I've seen Democrats and Libertarians and Republicans all gathered together to say the same thing, and it's refreshing. It's a nice change of pace.
500 people with one message. They're taxed enough already. Reporting for the Josiah Bartlett Center for Public Policy, I'm Grant Bosse.